And then the night was still. And the wind blew. And we looked around one to another and saying, we've got to go to Bethlehem and see what these angels told us about. And so we all made our way into Bethlehem, moving from place to place, trying to find out where the baby had been born, rushing here and there, waking people up, knocking on doors. Have you heard about the Messiah in a manger? Oh, go on. Until just on the other side, we finally found him. And there in a cave where they kept animals was a young lady holding a baby. And standing over her was this man. Now, my legs were shorter than the rest of the shepherds, and as I rushed up to that scene as a little kid, I went right past Dad, who'd stopped and was just staring. And I was right into that cave and right up to that lady. And I looked at that baby. What a precious baby. And he looked at me. And he smiled. And I fell in love. What a special night. The angels told us. And there he was. Baby. Wrapped in strips of cloth. Lying in a manger. Well, I tell you, it was tough going back to the fields, but somebody had to watch the sheep. And I had a chance, whenever we'd come back to Bethlehem, I'd go visit, I found out, Mary and Joseph, because they stayed around in Bethlehem after the census was over. It didn't seem like they wanted to go back home. And I'd have a chance to go by the little house that they'd moved into and play with little baby Jesus. Once when we were out watching our sheep and had come back, we heard stories about these magi. Had come from the far east, said they'd followed a star, and they came and they left presents. And as I went and visited with the family again, they told me about how these wise men had bowed before the baby and had offered him gold and frankincense and myrrh. That seemed like strange gifts. It wasn't what I'd asked for. But then, one day when I went over to the house, they were gone. Folks I asked around didn't know where they went. Some rumor circulated that they'd gone to Egypt. And then Herod's men came. And the slaughter was awful. Babies ripped from their mother's arms and killed. It's a night I'll never forget. Horrible destruction. In fact, Dad said, "Don't talk about that baby we saw. Don't tell about Jesus. The soldiers are looking for him. Be quiet." And we didn't talk about him anymore. Sammy, a little shepherd's boy, grew up to be Samuel. a shepherd, just like my dad and his dad before him. And I watched special sheep and had the opportunity to tell my boy about the sacrificial system, about the lambs that we were raising to be sacrificed in the temple. And one year at Passover, I took my little son and we took a flock of sheep and we drove them just a few miles over to Jerusalem because it was time for the Passover. And thousands of sheep were necessary. An assembly line was set up so that all the sheep could be sacrificed, so that all the folks that had come in from miles around to Jerusalem could have sheep for their Passover Seder. And as I took my boy and we made our way to Jerusalem, I began to explain about the Passover and about how God had rescued us, our people, from Egypt, about how we were in slavery there. And that as we gathered together and God sent Moses to deliver us, that night long ago when we were all in our homes and had sacrificed a lamb and put the blood on the doorpost of our house. And then the next morning we were free to leave. And that's why all the people had come to Jerusalem at this particular time of the year to celebrate that freedom, that deliverance that God had provided through the blood of a lamb. And I began to explain to him the part that we played as shepherds in taking care of those lambs and bringing them here to the temple for sacrifice. And he loved the sights of Jerusalem, all the commotion, the bustle, the activities, all the people. As we got closer, you could hear the bleating of sheep. And just after we had dropped off our sheep there by the temple, and we're making our way through the streets of Jerusalem, a commotion was coming down the road. Roman soldiers were parting the crowd, pushing people out of the way, knocking people over, bringing folks through the crowded streets. And I could see that behind them, there was one following them that was carrying a heavy cross. They were on their way to crucifixion. And we were pushed off to the side just as the condemned man was making his way past us. And with that cross on his shoulders, he looked at me. And my eyes met his eyes.